Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Last Place Fantasy Football Podcast to our Week 5 recap and our Week 6 preview. I am your co host, Josh, along with my co hosts, Ethan and Ryan. Gentlemen, how did the weekend fare for you?
I went up against the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, so did I.
I did too, and I just squeaked out a win. Thank you, Josh Jacobs.
I literally
Yeah, but you didn't have to face all three.
look. Oh, that's true.
No, but I
That's
faced
true.
I faced DJ Moore. That's what killed me.
I faced
Yeah,
DJ
that's not
Moore and
enough.
ETN.
DJ Moore, Justin Fields, and Komet.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I get you there. I get
No,
you there.
Ethan, just
That's just the
let
tip.
the pain flow through you.
I mean, it's really okay. Like, it's obviously frustrating because, like, I need a win, and, like, I thought my team was going to put it together this week, but,
Yeah.
like, um, not having DK hurt, not having Godwin hurt, um, and like I was forced to start JT, who I knew was gonna, not be the best. But it's like that was the only option I had to play. So and then it's like you have Josh Jacobs who puts on a good performance. You have AJ Brown who manages to pull together a good performance. And then you've got AJ Dillon who in place of Aaron Jones does well. And then Russell Wilson, who just threw the freaking game away and gave the Jets defense 20 points. Like the whole thing was just like a nightmare matchup for me. It's frustrating, but like it happens. I just need a win.
Yeah, you just need one, but I think this week for you was the first step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean
So
having James Conner on IR helps me because I play Michaela next week. And I don't think she's going to touch her her lineup. So I
yeah,
might be
no,
okay.
I think that definitely helps
Is
you
out
out.
as well. So that's going to be huge for me next week.
Yep,
Yeah.
but yeah, how you feel is how I felt against Philip last year.
Well,
Where
and it's how Paul felt in year one too. Like I'm
yeah,
basically Paul of year one. It's just like, is somebody going to come through for me?
exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, you have a solid team. It's just they haven't been
And
performing.
yeah,
And
coming.
honestly, that's kind of how my team has been too. Like they just have not been performing, and they showed up this week.
That's
Yeah,
been mine
So
you have
as far
same.
as other leagues.
I
No,
want to hear.
no, I'm saying in another league that it's been rough out here. I'm 1-4 in that league.
The other leagues don't matter. Also, one nice concession was winning week 5 in dream lineups.
Yeah, see, at
I'm
least you
yet
got that.
I'm yet to lose a dream lineup.
That
I
is
that's good.
true.
I've only won 2, but I have not lost one.
I think
Yeah, and
you
I've
are.
lost
I
three.
think you're 2-3-0, if I
Yeah,
remember that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
two, three,
I'm
and zero. Ryan should be no. That I have the
two
wrong.
zero two
You guys
zero
are right.
three.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
Ryan
right. It
opened
is
up
three in a
2-0,
row.
and he
I'm
talked
two
all that
zero
Yes,
three.
smack, and then has lost 3
and
in a row.
I'm 1-1-3. So
I
so
know.
technically, since I have to tie, I think that puts me above. But it's actually getting very close, which has been at least comforting to know because it was rough out here for the first couple of weeks for Ethan and I. But I mean, besides the Bears, besides some of the other players, any other uh takeaways we want to take from week 5? I promise y'all, mine will not be about the Ravens as much as I want to make it about the
Um,
Ravens.
I mean, I think the biggest takeaway as a Falcons fan is you give Ritter a clean pocket, that man will go to work.
And
And
you,
Well,
Houston,
yeah,
and on the flip side of that, the Houston Texans are a good football team.
oh yeah,
Like
that's
yeah,
that was a
100%.
battle.
No,
yeah.
they got the right cue. They got Will Anderson on the other side. D'Amico Ryans is the guy to lead them. They're
Mhm.
going to be
They
a
just need a
very
little bit
very good team.
like
Well,
a few more
okay.
drafts and they'll be there.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't
So
even say a
I
few
have
more drafts, but
yeah. I have two takeaways. One as a Vikings fan, one as not.
There's
The
no way.
refs want the
yeah,
Chiefs to win the Super Bowl this year. But my second take from this week is the Commanders. They might have a quarterback in Sam Howell.
They don't have
They
a
really might.
defense.
I mean,
So
they don't have a defense, but
can I tell you how I feel about
he produced quite a bit this
Okay,
week.
yeah,
I'm
Ethan,
surprised.
Ethan, you start with it
Yeah,
because
I want
I
to say
have,
one thing for the Commanders, and I
yeah,
want you to keep rolling, Ryan and Josh. But I
Do
feel
it. Do it.
the Commanders are this team where they put up numbers and then will continuously find a way to lose because they are just a stink fest. Like they're going to keep putting up numbers though. They're going to keep being competitive and in games, and they spent all this money in draft picks on a D line when Chase Young's going to end up getting traded to where who knows where, but he's not going to stay with the Commanders. So they're going to keep putting up all these numbers, look good, play people super hard, and lose.
here is my concern. I think there's been a few moments where they've looked good, but there is a lot of moments where it has not been good. And
Yeah.
at this point, it's kind of just been the same old, same old. Like, I don't think, I think the scheme, as far as defense is concerned, really screws their linebackers. And it asks their linebackers to do a lot, which, if you don't have the right guys, which I still think Jamin Davis is still remains yet to be seen because I think he's in year 3 or year 2. Um, but I mean that front four like should it take care of stuff? Yeah, but when everyone's doing quick throws, or you have to hold or they use play action to hold the linebackers. Cameron Curl is fantastic. Forbes is interesting, but I mean, I'm sorry, Kendall Fuller was getting cooked out there
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
DJ Moore.
And I mean, I guess the last thing on
Okay.
that is you got to see it against Atlanta and big
I
question.
my issue is I initially thought Brandon Staley was going to be the first one fired. At
Yeah.
this point, and then at one point I thought it was McDaniels.
It might be
I
Ron.
think there's a legitimate chance we can see Ron Rivera out the door.
Yeah.
It's just because I think it's set for Bieniemy to take over.
Yeah. So I want to open up with my big question
Go for it.
because
You,
we're
so
getting we're getting to the point in the year. It's almost halfway through the fantasy football season, and you're either on top, middle of the pack. And my question is, if you're on that on top or middle of the pack, who do you need to trade for and get on your team to kind of secure that playoff run? Like who is a must trade for fantasy football league winner?
okay. So I love that how you
That's a
phrased
very.
it.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
I loved how you phrased it because I have the inverse. But
Oh yeah,
as
you said we had similar questions. I'm like, no, I think we're good, but
so
I have my
man,
opinion, but I want to hear your guys's.
yeah, I'm gonna look through it. I'm actually concerned about San Francisco, Baltimore. I would say do not trade for a Baltimore player,
No,
because they get San Francisco and Miami during fantasy playoffs.
but
Which
Miami gives up a lot of points to opposing teams.
so Miami for championship is possible, but actually let me go and see Baltimore's schedule
Because
real
it's
quick.
like what you said about Buffalo and me being concerned about ETN, but Buffalo gives up an insane amount of points to running
Yeah,
backs. So
so
it's like
so
there are
Mhm.
still viable options even in difficult real life matchups.
I got you. You know that makes sense. So they have a week 13 bye, so that's something to be a little bit wary of. They got the Rams week 14, Jacksonville week 15, San Francisco and Miami to close out the fantasy playoffs.
But I'll
So
take Jacksonville that week 15 matchup. I mean, San Francisco might be tough,
yeah,
but then at the end to close out against Miami, like if you want Lamar, I think that's a viable matchup.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, I have my answer. It's Alvin Kamara.
That's who I'm
Yeah.
thinking of. I was gonna say he's on my
Yeah.
flex right. It's Kamara because he's
Yeah,
just lighting it up in the Saints who can't do anything other than go through Kamara.
yeah. So yeah, and I don't know why they're not letting Derek Carr rest. And if I see Derek Carr start another game, it's abandoned ship on Olave.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's my honest like feeling on it. And I love Olave. I thought Derek Carr would be very good with Olave. A hurt AC joint sprain Derek Carr is not good for Olave.
and
To the point,
Anthony Richardson.
that's true. To the point where it's just put Jameson. Just please put Jameson.
Yeah,
But But Kamara playoff schedule: Giants, Rams, Bucks. All three very winnable matchups there
Yeah. Yeah,
for
those are
Alvin
3
Kamara.
now. The other one's also on my team that I'm thinking of, if you need more Tom Ryan.
Oh, I have one. I have one. Um, Now this may be a little controversial. He does have a ton of kind of tough matchups, but if you're looking for a rental this year, you want to win. Adam Thielen. Over the last 4 weeks, he has produced, absolutely produced. If he continues through the rest of this year at the production that he's at, I mean, and he's been fairly reliable when it comes to targets. And Adam Thielen, sure-handed. He gets the ball thrown his way 9 times out of 10, he's going to catch it. And he's been reliable. So
Yeah.
I will say
I think that if this trend continues, he could end up being a top 10 wide receiver this year, which he already is right now.
Yeah.
I will say, I mean, I'm just looking at Thielen's stats right now. If he the lowest he's had was week 1, which is 2 targets, but since then
Yeah, but
9,
that was
14, 8,
But that was also
13.
yeah,
Bryce
that
trying
was
to figure
also
out
Yeah.
who
week
do I have.
one.
That's also week
Yeah,
1
that was
Bryce. So
week one.
no, but I'm saying I think the trajectory is upwards. Like he actually played the most snaps this past week against Detroit. So if that continues to go upwards, you have the bye week, week 7, and then playoff matchups. We're looking at Atlanta, Green Bay, Jacksonville. All 3 very good matchups, personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to show up to the 10-year reunion and a nice Audi, Adam Thielen.
But it's like the Audi of his graduating class.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's a
You
nice
show
one.
up in a 10-year Audi.
The only thing is, if they trade for a wide receiver 1, that might make it interesting. Like, I think even like a Hollywood Brown could mess things up. There's some other guys who could mess it up too, but
Very
Yeah.
much could. I mean, Hollywood's actually even a good option in general, whether he gets traded or not. I was going to ask how y'all feel about the Texans' options. So Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Damian Pierce. We're starting to see that offense click a little bit more. It should hopefully only get better. Their playoff schedule, however, is Tennessee, Cleveland, Tennessee.
that's not a bad schedule though. Tennessee is not the Tennessee of old.
Yeah. Your only issue is that you get the Jets week 14.
Even the Jets defense, I feel like hasn't been good. Like they just gave up a lot of points to the Broncos. Like Russ this past weekend and Jaleel were very fantasy viable. You didn't see it as much out of Cortland Sutton, but you'll get matchups against the Jets
No,
that you can.
Sauce is just a good matchup for Cortland Sutton, so I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's that. I mean, literally, I actually, to be
I mean,
honest with you,
I think Jaleel's a trade for too at this point. Speaking of
Nico.
which,
Actually,
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm looking at the Texans' schedule. Legitimately, I think you might need to look at the Texans' options. So they get New Orleans
Yeah.
next week. That literally their next hardest defense, maybe Cincinnati, and then maybe the Jets.
yeah, but you're
Like
gonna want
it's
Nico
Yeah.
because Tank might be injured for a little
yeah.
bit.
So I
Yeah.
think Nico might be the move. To be quite honest with you.
Yeah, but it might be a good buy for Tank Dell right now while he's injured.
Oh, with the
You
injury
know,
dip for sure.
buy low, and then maybe by the end of the year he's fully healthy and he's ready for a playoff run. But Ethan, you bring up a good point with Jaleel McLaughlin. You know, it kind of leads into my big question, which is Jaleel McLaughlin a legitimate threat to Javonte Williams and the Broncos backfield, as it is?
No, I think it's Thunder and Lightning. Kind of what P Ryan was doing with him, but Javonte will do what P Ryan was doing better, so that pass catching threat can take it for a house call, maybe eat up a lot of targets and like break some out to the outside. But that's what you're looking at with Jaleel.
And Sean Payton's always had a thunder and lightning situation, whether it's like At one point, it was Pierre Thomas, Deuce McAllister, then Pierre Thomas, Mark Ingram, and then Mark Ingram Kamara for so long. And
Yeah.
then obviously Sean Payton retires. So I think in a dynasty scenario, I think you might want to be a little concerned about Javonte Williams as a
Mhm.
Denver Bronco long term, just
I mean,
because.
if Jaleel keeps getting snaps like this and producing like how he has been, it's like how
It's
can
his
you argue?
backfield.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this healthy guy coming in
Yep.
who's not going to miss time and be explosive because he is explosive. He is
Yeah,
electric.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like Achan with with
Yeah,
the Dolphins. It's hard to ignore that kind of production,
yeah.
and I think
he
they're
didn't have a
going to be
60 point.
leaning towards, huh?
I said he didn't have a 60-point performance, but that electric
Yeah,
element
no,
just taking space.
but no, he does have the skill to do it.
100%.
So
I mean,
yeah,
even
so I
Chicago, like even when
you guys
before we
bring up good
talked about
points.
Jaleel McLaughlin here, I mean, 21 points against Chicago and then 19 against the Jets. I mean, the Jets is a good defense to do that against. And then you get Green Bay, Kansas City, and then Kansas City again. So honestly, I think he's 5'7", 187. So he's never going to be a bell cow kind of back. That's where I think
Yeah.
then this is what concerns me is that if you force Javonte into that role, because then you lose receiving threat Javonte, unless
Mhm.
unless something
Which I
changes
think is
there with Sean
exactly how
Payton.
it's going to happen.
Yeah, to which
Yeah,
then if I'm Javonte,
that's my fear.
which Javonte as a dynasty option, I think is going to be very short term, unfortunately, even though we know the
Yeah,
talent's there for long term.
yeah, I'm already looking for people to pawn him off on. So
I see. There are a few people in our league who need running backs. Um,
exactly.
is that it on Jaleel McLaughlin?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it for
All
me.
I think we have a nice little segue here. And we talked about Ethan's question: who do you need to secure yourself for the playoffs? I have the exact opposite. What if your team has sucked? You're either 2-3, 1-4, or 0-5, and
All right, 0-5. Yeah.
yeah, I'm getting there. Uh, I give you the scenario. You are in last place. What's your first move to get a win?
I'll go ahead and field this one.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is just trust what's been working. I feel like it's so easy to panic and be like, oh, this could work out perfectly because of this matchup or because of this, that. This guy might go off. And it's like you get so conspiracy theorist that you go away from options that are just working. So,
Hmm.
for example, I was leaving DK out of my lineup when DK's been working all season. DK's been good all season long, and I keep taking him out, hoping for a home run and not getting it. The same thing happened with Russ. I doubted Russ, and Russ has been consistent all year long. Took him out and paid for it. This last week I did the same thing with JT, hoping that he, might vulture a touchdown. Zach Moss has the best game of his entire career. So it's like you step away from all of these consistent options because you're panicking. It's like you literally just need to go with what's working. So if you have guys on your team that
Mhm.
are scoring you consistent points that you can trust to, at least pave you 12, 13, 14 points, you can muster out a win against somebody who's stud just doesn't have a good day. But if you keep panicking and trying to be like, oh, this would work perfect because of this matchup, you're going to keep finding yourself in that last place hole because conspiracy theories rarely work out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a great lesson as far as not going for the home run play and trusting what's working. I mean, I'll even use that because I am 1-4 in one league. I probably panic traded a little. Not probably. I did panic trade too early to where it's like I did end up getting the win the very next week, but it's like, oh, maybe I do have a better team if I just waited it out a little bit.
Right.
Because now we're
Yeah.
starting to see some players get into the groove. Like there's talks of Austin Eckler going to play next week. So if you held on to him, good job. If you traded him, you might start seeing the
Same thing with
repercussions
Cooper
of that.
Cup. Same thing with
Yeah.
Cooper Cup.
Cooper Cup's a good example. I mean, now we're going to talk about Justin Jefferson because that's honestly a
ETN
very
looks more viable now.
Yep.
Yeah,
ETN looks
a
more
lot more
reliable.
viable.
Kenneth Walker more reliable now, especially if
Brees
you
Hall.
can.
Damian Pierce.
Yep. It's especially so. I mean, I think the lesson I'm taking is definitely just waiting and see what happens. I think for me, it's worse with injuries because it's not like your team. It's not like, oh, my team can still go off at any point. It's when you start hitting the injuries, which I want
Yeah.
to bring up is that's the thing you want to pay attention to most. So, for example, I'm Justin Jefferson out 4 games. So who are his backups? Someone's probably already picked up Jordan Addison, but look at KJ Osborne or
Yeah.
target those. So like try and go for TJ Hawkinson, even though probably that one's a little bit more untouchable given the tight end position. James Conner is hurt, so go after his backups. You're gonna basically right now. I think it's stick to the process, which is what Ethan was saying. But I would go after someone that you know can basically take off. So personally, for me, that person is Justin Fields right now. And I know it might be a steep price because he's had 2 really good weeks, but hopefully that's the start of something. Because for the most part, a lot of people had to pivot from Justin Fields. So I think
Yeah.
it's a lot. Also, it's not only sticking what's working, but also don't force yourself if something's not working. Is what I'll say. So, for example, like if your quarterback isn't it, make the move, go find another one. Play the QB string game for a while until the rest of your team gets like up and ready to go. And so you're probably going to have to play the waiver wire, but that can buy you one or two wins, and that throws you right back into the conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, even
and
if you're 0-5, you only need to string together a couple of wins to be back in it.
Yeah, and
yeah, of
legitimately,
course.
unless it's a super rare year, every team should have 3 to 5 losses. So like it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But you just have to know that like probably this week up until week 8 is now's the time to make a move once you figure out what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All righty,
That's
gentlemen.
pretty much it.
That is pretty much it.
It's time for dream lineups.
Yep. Oh boy, this is going to be this is a tough one. Quite a few teams on bye, but also a lot of the matchups are weird. So, how we want to start this off? Who wants to go first with quarterback?
Ethan, why don't you go ahead and take it?
Okay. I am taking first. Give me Josh Allen against the Giants, against the G-men.
Right there too.
Dude's been on a tear.
That's an easy one.
And he's playing a bad defense, so give me Josh Allen.
Okay. Josh, I also see that
Yep,
is yours.
I have also chosen Josh
All
Allen.
right.
I mean, they're not happy with the loss, but also the pass game is one of the only things that is just simply working for the Bills right now.
I agree with that. They're clicking. They're real clicking. So I'm going with the hot hand this week, and I'm taking Justin Fields against Minneapolis, Minnesota. So
That's a man who believes in his team.
Yeah, it's a man who really believes that the defense sucks. So, if that's going to win me fantasy football weeks, cool.
You just
All
take it.
right.
Before we get to
Yeah,
running back, Ryan, I have a Vikings question to ask you.
All right, Vikings question.
Do
Go
you
ahead.
think the bottom could really fall out to where we see the Vikings just say, you know what, Justin Jefferson, shut it down for the year, we're restarting?
Yep.
Is that legitimately on the table?
I do think because there's been whispers in a lot of Vikings fan base camps that because of how the season is going for us, there's thoughts that they might try to trade away Kirk Cousins. And at that point, if we do that, we're punting on the year, and we're just going, hey, give us next year. And I think they'll keep JJ out for a couple of weeks, let some of the younger players play, and figure out who they are, and then next year we'll come in hot. Hopefully with a new quarterback. But it's risky, and that's kind of the thoughts that I've had. I love how our offense has been going, but this year it does not seem like our year. We're shooting ourselves in the foot left and right, and it's looking rough, just in every aspect of our game. So I don't know. I think part of me thinks we should just punt this year and sell Kirk Cousins and get the heck out of Dodge, but I don't know. He seems to be clicking in this offense.
Yeah,
So if we can get our defensive woes figured out, then potentially we could make something out of it. But we're a long ways away from even being 500 right now.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that is because, I mean, it's already confirmed. Justin Jefferson's out for 4 games. But what happens if you lose even 2, maybe even 3, even 4 of those games? Like, you're in a territory where Justin Jefferson might be out the entire year. Which I want to say to just prepare people is that's possible.
So here's the thing too. These are the next 4 games. So you have Chicago, which is incredibly winnable for the Vikings, even without JJ. But then you have San Francisco. So
okay.
And then you have Green Bay, which is another good defense. And then you have Atlanta, which is a good defense. So it's like those are 4 pretty tough games, even including Chicago, who, granted they should be, in Green Bay, who they should be, but they're still going to be tough games. And then you get JJ back, and you immediately play the Saints, which is another good defense.
Yeah. Yeesh. Like, so we're thinking here, what, 2 and...
I mean, best case scenario, you're hoping them 2-2 over these next 4 weeks.
Yeah, best case scenario. So unless some sort of miracle happens and every aspect of our team, of the Vikings, clicks, we're not winning against San Fran. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But
so
that's it. Everything else seems like it could happen, but without our number 1 offensive weapon and a run game that has looked abysmal all year, I don't think any of that's going to happen. So,
yeah, I mean, even 2-2, you're 1-4 right now, so that puts you at 3-7.
Yeah,
and if Jefferson gets back, that's New Orleans. You luckily get Denver, so say you're 3-8, and then you would have to beat Chicago again, and then Vegas, Cincy, Detroit, Green Bay, Detroit one more time.
Yeah,
and that's a tall task.
I don't see us being above 500 this year at all, anywhere near it. That's just with how our matchups have been, how we've been playing. We do not seem like the kind of team that can.
With the Boohoo Vikings, the Boohoo Vikings,
I know.
Festival is over. They suck.
Yeah,
let's hit running backs.
Sorry that it's you. RB, give me ETN. Me and Ryan have the same running back 1. But it's a good matchup against Indy. Indy's defense is very hurt. And ETN showed that he could do. I mean, he's been fairly consistent all year, but this was the first time where he was doing it. Scoring. A lot of touches in the passing game, picking up monster yards, and it was against the Bills' defense, which is not a bad defense.
Not a bad defense, but I think another thing that we have to talk about is this Bills defense is hurt, and they actually might be a team to target. It sounds like Matt Milano might be out for a very extended period.
He's out for the year with a broken right leg.
They have officially said out for the year. Okay, so that means you basically.
Well, technically they said indefinitely, but he shattered his right leg and tore tendons. I'm gonna go ahead and
he's out.
Two together that he's out.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption to say.
Indefinite is usually out for the year, maybe next year, or at least a good portion of next year
Yeah.
too.
And on top
Yeah.
of that, Buffalo's lost two, I think they're 2 starting corners, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah, Tre'Davious White tore his Achilles, I believe, or ACL, and then
Achilles.
yeah, they lost their other one this week to a torn something. I don't remember
Yeah,
it now.
so I mean, we might be talking about Buffalo in a position where their defense is just hurt, and it's just going to be Josh Allen, just get us back in it.
Yeah, go into a
Yeah.
shootout, Josh Allen.
Yeah, so ETN is your
Yeah.
running back. I guess I'll circle around and do mine. I have CMC against Cleveland. I was texting a couple people, and I was just saying after watching the Sunday night game, San Francisco's on a warpath this year. Like, you know how it felt when we saw the Bills and they were just lighting up everyone for like the first 7 weeks.
Mhm.
I would even say that this, because that one just felt like a tidal wave. This one just feels like an onslaught with the 49ers.
Yeah.
They feel not only like dominant, but also in control.
Yeah.
And I think you might as well write it until something happens.
Okay, so it just broke. It's official that Eckler's going to play on Monday night against Dallas.
Nice.
Nice. I
Okay.
shouldn't have traded him. Shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, and
Sucks
to
suck.
be honest, with this San Francisco matchups through all the way through the regular season, if they're pretty decent matchups. Other than Philly, I don't see a lot of major contenders. Maybe Cincinnati and the Jags, but I don't see any major contenders up until the playoffs.
Yeah, the Jags will contend.
Yeah.
And even then, fantasy wise, the playoffs look very winnable. So if you have any San Fran players, especially CMC is
Yeah.
going to eat during playoffs.
I will say Ayuk is interesting. Ayuk is interesting. All right, you know what? I'll do this because they will not see this episode before I probably accept this. I have an offer to get Justin Fields and Ayuk for Josh Jacobs. Should I take it, Ethan?
Yes. If you're hurting at quarterback. Yes.
My quarterbacks are Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud.
No, you're fine. CJ's
no, yeah. Why you're no, don't trade for Fields then.
You're good. You're chilling.
Okay. You know what? I appreciate that.
And remember, I think Jacobs is going to come out and start producing more and more. I mean, he did the same thing last year. The first 4 games of the year, he looked like absolute, dog crap.
It was not good.
And then he showed up in week 5.
Being generous to dog crap.
Yeah, and he produced the rest of the year in amazing numbers. So, I'd hold on to him at least for the next couple of weeks because he started producing. Last week and
he gets New England this week, and then Chicago, Detroit, Giants after that.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, even then, like his usage has kind of fluctuated to between 80 and 70%. Eventually, we're gonna. I don't know if we'll get any higher, but I do know the opportunity should start getting better.
Yeah,
it's been a gauntlet the first few weeks.
Yeah. So okay, all right. Back to our dream lineups.
Ryan,
Ethan. Yeah, Ethan and me pretty much had the same running backs.
Yeah, so
except we have for your last flex and my last flex. So we both had
we can do that. Right?
Yeah, ETN, Alvin Kamara, and Raheem Mostert.
Yeah.
So Mostert, Achane is out, so Mostert is going to get the entire backfield for Miami. And when a backfield is producing 2 top 3 running backs in the first 5 weeks,
absurd.
You're taking
that. I mean, so seeing Achane and Mostert both produce top 3 fantasy running back numbers is just crazy. So having Mostert go up against a kind of porous Carolina defense, I think they're going to be fine, and he's gonna produce good numbers. Alvin Kamara, the last 2 weeks, he's kind of gone back and forth on being
Yeah,
run heavy and then being receiving heavy, so that he's still got the
He's been
capability
consistent.
to
very
produce
much.
on both ends. So I liked him as my RB2.
And against
I
Houston,
agree.
it
Yeah,
Yeah,
happened.
and against you, I mean, the big
yeah.
thing with Kamara, I mean, we mentioned it earlier. Derek Carr's like shoulder, it's
Mhm.
really hurt Olave. It actually should boost Kamara's value.
It will produce or boost Camara. So
You want to know something crazy? After this last week, for ETN, he's now running back 4.
Yeah, he's been super consistent.
okay.
Like like it honestly, Ethan, especially for what you saw in ETN since we started this dynasty league. It feels
Yeah.
good that the
Oh
church
yeah,
has
it feels so
finally.
good.
Oh,
The
the
faith has
offering
held.
plate at the church is full.
It really is. The pews are filled, the hymns are being sung, and hopefully it just keeps rolling. We're trying to buy Ferraris for the church, because that's
Oh
what
my
all
god.
pastors need to have.
Oh,
Um,
Okay.
you're
Okay.
not doing
I
the
need
private
I
jet.
need my designer clothing, and I need to fly to my ministry conferences in a private jet because I don't want to be seen with the peasant.
All right, Joel
Yeah.
Osteen.
Shirts.
Let's get
So
moving.
Curl that hair up. I
yeah, the
want to
shirt's
bring up.
pretty good.
I want to bring up my RB2 because I went a very different direction. I went with Isaiah Pacheco in the Thursday night matchup going up
But it
against
is
Denver.
Denver, so yeah, I
I
can't.
think that's solid. That's a solid matchup.
Yeah,
It was between him and Kamara for me.
I mean,
So
it's Denver. Plus, I have no idea if Kelsey's playing.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I think he's going to play, but
I think
again,
Denver
they might
upsets.
just hold him out.
I
They
think
might
Denver
just hold
upsets
him out.
in Casey.
If they do
That would
that,
be interesting. I mean, they almost lost to Minnesota.
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, it was a close game if the refs hadn't.
the refs have just been inside of the Chiefs for the
Yeah,
entire year, and you just got to kind of roll with it.
if I'm Kansas
yeah,
City, I'm definitely considering trying to get a wide receiver.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know
Well, everyone's
exactly
talking
who.
about the
yeah,
Panthers. It's like, look at the Chiefs; they need somebody.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's just because I think Sky Moore has not what you wanted to be. Rasheed Rice potentially, but we don't know. And then
yeah,
Kelsey, I mean, Kelsey's great, but now you're starting to see the issues of, oh, what if he gets hurt?
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
Josh,
wide
think
wide
receivers.
receiver 1.
Wide
my
receivers.
my wide receiver one, also playing the Giants. I'm going with Stephon Diggs. Just watch
Whoop,
him and
whoop.
Josh Allen rain hellfire.
That's why
That
I have him as my wide receiver one.
It might be. I took a different approach. I'm gonna take Chase against Seattle.
Oh, that
Uh,
is that's
it has nothing to do with the 56 point performance against Arizona, although that definitely helps.
it's the
But
19 targets, isn't it?
Yep.
yeah, I mean the targets have been massive, and he wasn't wrong when he said I'm always open. And I think if you're Cincy, you need to take that statement to the bank. And it's like I talked about this a lot last year, but being in assistant offensive coordinator, the biggest thing you're in charge of is the touch chart. Who is getting my touches? And are we being successful? And if you're in a situation like Cincinnati where your dude is not getting the touches that he needs and your team is not winning, you got to flip that on its head. The Eagles did something similar with Dallas Goedert. They weren't performing like what they wanted to. Say, well, here's Goddard. He's one of our dudes and he's not getting the ball. Now, all of a sudden, these last 2 weeks, Goddard's been better. The Eagles have looked better. They're putting in more complete games because their dudes are getting the touches that they need. Same thing with Cincy. They're starting to win. So they just need to keep that rolling. And I love the targets, like you said.
And also, fun fact: Jamar Chase has vaulted himself to be the wide receiver 6 on the year after that
This is
Jeez.
like in
performance.
the
After
30s.
that performance, good
Yeah,
lord. Yeah, and I agree with you, Ethan. they're funneling. They have to funnel that
They have to.
offense
They have no
through
choice.
Jamar
Like, that's
Chase. They have to. There's no other options out there on the field. I don't know where T. Higgins limped off to, but he is no longer a factor right
The
now.
nursing home. He's in the
Yeah,
nursing home.
so.
T. Higgins went from being a very viable wide receiver 2 last year to just not.
To
It
the
felt like he
bottom
didn't even
falling
show
out.
up.
I think if
Yeah,
you
he didn't even show up for the
do you
team.
guys legitimately think the receiver in question to trade for is T. Higgins?
No.
I'm
I
saying
think
as far
there's a
as
bounce
teams,
back,
I think
but
I'm trading him away. I'm getting him off of my team.
fantasy trading him away. Totally agree. I'm saying we just talked about the Chiefs needing to trade for someone. The Panthers trying to trade for someone. Is that person T. Higgins?
Yeah. I would, yeah.
Yeah, you definitely could. You definitely could.
Yeah,
If you're very wide receiver needy.
I will also let this be my public apology to the Cincinnati Bengals because I did not understand your game.
Wide receiver 2s.
Wide receiver 2s.
Once again, mine is matchup based. It has nothing to do with this 50-point performance, but it's DJ Moore. I'm not bandwagoning. I'm just seeing the value that's there, and he's a target monster again. This last week when you have, let's see here, what was it? 8 receptions. I think it was more. I think it was like 10 or so targets, 11 targets, something like that.
It was 8. It was 10 targets, 8 catches for 230 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
yards
when you have 10 targets, 19 targets, you're getting a line share of the work. You're going to put up points. So whether or not he gets over 200 yards and multiple touchdowns is irrelevant because he's going to get the receptions. And so that's, consistent points, and that's what I'm looking for.
I would love just to add that he averaged 28.75 yards a catch last week. But I do want to say something.
That's what athletes do.
I do want to say something. The ceiling on DJ Moore has been broken. And you want to know why? With his 3 touchdown performance, he now has 5 touchdowns on the season. Whereas each year he's had in Carolina, he's only had 4 for the year. So right now, sky's the limit for DJ Moore.
Best season ever for DJ Moore. We love that for him.
Yes, you love to see
already in week 5.
Give your homer pick, Ryan.
All right. So my wide receiver 2 is Adam Thielen. I already talked about him, so I won't talk anymore. But I think he's going to do well this week.
Well, but same thing I've been saying: targets.
I've always said this on the podcast. If I can get 14 points, 15 points out of my flex positions, my wide receiver 2s, then I can put up good points in a week, out of my starters. So that's kind of my.
You don't have to live and die on the Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, you don't have to ride the roller coaster that is Tyreek Hill. Where he has a 60-point performance and then a 5-point performance, and then that
and then
always
40 and then 12.
Yeah, exactly. So I never like riding those roller coasters.
But I'll tell you what, I wrote it last week and it was a fun ride. But that's because I knew he was due. The bill came due, and I said, I can trust Tyreek Hill for one thing, and that's to show up when the bill's due.
Legitimately, the lowest amount of points that he's had is 10 points. He had 15 against New England. And
that's what he does.
Then his highest are 34, 37, 49.
Yeah. Wide receiver 2, Josh.
My wide receiver 2 going a little different here. I understand that the QB1 is hurt, but give me Michael Pittman versus Jacksonville. On to tight ends. I'll snake it here. I got
Bleacher Report just came out with the Cousins article about who should trade for him.
Who did?
Bleacher Report.
Oh, of course Bleacher Report does, because
you can always smell blood.
All it is clickbait now, unfortunately. But I have TJ Hawkinson versus Chicago. I think a lot of Justin Jefferson's targets are going to go to Hawk.
I agree with that.
I'm taking Hawk too.
I'm rolling. Yeah, see, I'm rolling with the stack with Justin Fields and Cole Kmet. I mean, he's produced
Look,
over 40 fantasy points the last 2 weeks. I I, I want to see what he does against
I
a
just want to
very
let you
porous
know,
Minnesota
Tyler learned
defense.
this lesson last year. The bottom will
I know,
fall out. No, I'm
I
just
know the bottom will fall out, and
No,
I'm
we're talking about the
expecting it
Chicago
to.
Bears.
But I'm
yeah.
hoping that it won't this week because I
But
want to win.
nothing will
Cole
be
Kmet's
So
a great
as
pick.
when you picked up Cole
yeah,
Kmet, he traded for him right back and then sucked.
Yep.
yep.
Just like
So that's my
fantasy
pick.
football playoff hopes.
All right.
All right, on
So our last
No,
our
no.
last flex position. I
We
think
got
you have.
Ethan's tight end next, I think.
Oh,
no,
Ethan's
I
no.
had Hawk.
He has Hawk.
Oh, you
Yeah.
have Hawk as well? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So y'all said y'all said your first flex. I kind of have one similar. I have Monty in my lineup as well.
Yeah, that's my last one is
Yeah,
Monty.
you just gotta go with that. Ryan, let's go with your last flex.
Okay. So my last flex is Jordan Addison. I don't think he's going to put up Justin Jefferson numbers. I don't, but I think he is going to absorb some of those targets, and I think he will produce like he produced decent numbers through the first couple of weeks. So I I think he'll put up better numbers, but I don't think he'll put up Justin Jefferson numbers if that makes
Flex
sense.
numbers. He'll definitely put
So
up
Yeah.
flex numbers.
he'll put up flex
Line.
numbers.
Uh then I will go into my very last flex. Ethan, you're gonna love this. I got Drake London going up against Washington. I am going to be a believer.
They need to feed him. Will
Yes.
they?
I don't care that Van Jefferson was traded. He is only there to be one thing, but I just imagine you just watch Kendall Fuller get torched. You just watch Emmanuel Forbes do all right against like speedier receivers, but Drake London is not that kind of receiver. He is literally our newest version of Anquan Bolden reincarnated. So I think Drake London should actually match up well with these corners. If they can get a clean pocket for Ritter, it should be a good day for Drake London.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they managed to do it this last week against Texans, who don't have a bad defensive line.
They do not. Greenard and Will Anderson are an incredible combo. And that,
Yep.
gentlemen, is the end of
His
the
dream
episode.
comes.
Thank you again for watching the Last Place Fantasy Football Podcast. You can find us on all social media platforms at Last Place FP. You can find these episodes on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. We just to be kind of just upfront with all of our listeners here, we are going to be more active on YouTube, so don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on there. And we'd love to kind of engage whoever gives their opinion. And there's been quite a few of you where we've gone, oh, hey, they were kind of right. So don't forget to listen to us on those. Ethan, what should they never forget, though?
Never forget. Sometimes you're right. Sometimes you're right.
Have a good one, everybody, and we will see y'all next week.